I never used to look at my financials. I'd
Yeah.
use my bank account as my tracker.
Welcome to the show. Today we got a special guest. We got Amy Gilbert. She is the owner of Perfect Balance in Abu Dhabi, Abu Dhabi, UAE. Did I get this right?
Abu Dhabi.
Abu
Yes,
Dhabi.
it's said in all sorts of ways with different accents. So yes, Abu Dhabi.
Okay. And you started your practice in 2017, and I looked online. You've grown your clinical team to about 22. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Wow, what an incredible journey. And I think you mentioned earlier, your educational background is a physiotherapist, right? Out in England?
Yeah, I am. I trained as a physio. I graduated in 2009.
Okay. So how did you end up in Abu Dhabi?
Well, I've actually lived in Abu Dhabi longer than I've lived anywhere else.
Okay.
So I grew up here. I was a child here. So my parents traveled a lot when we were growing up. So we were in Saudi and Pakistan and in
Oh,
Abu Dhabi since
geez.
I've been 4 to 5 years old, and then here until I was 16. So I did up until it was British educational system, so GCSEs, which is 2 years before like graduating from school, and then moved back to the UK, uh, went to school, finished my A levels, then went to university, and then
Hmm.
graduated in 2009. Worked in London, decided I preferred the beach and the sunshine, and I moved. Well, I actually left the UK. I quit my job after 2.5 years
Were
and
you a
went traveling.
physio? You were a
I was,
physio?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I graduated in 2009 as a physio, worked for the National Health Service, which is
Oh,
like
geez. Yeah, that
the government
NHS.
system, NHS. Yep. So worked
Yeah.
for them for 2.5 years and did some other stuff like private clinics and rugby club, and then moved, well, actually left the UK and went off traveling around India for 3 months, and then moved back to Abu Dhabi thinking I was going to leave and go off traveling again, and then got offered a job and started working. And I was meant to go off traveling to Bali. I've still never been to Bali. Well, now that was in 2011, 2012. So yeah, and I've been here in Abu Dhabi since then, working it since 2012.
Wow, that's incredible, right? So tell me about your practice because you do rehab plus medical. It's not, and it looks
Yeah.
like you cover every single discipline that's on the medical directory, right?
So yeah, so it started, well, I'm a physio, so, and I like trained as a musculoskeletal physio. So I had, when I opened the practice, I was doing a bit of women's health and MSK or musculoskeletal physio. And at the beginning, the dream was just to have a physio clinic. That's what I knew. I had wanted to like be my own boss, and I had ideas about expanding, and Abu Dhabi was home, so I kind of wanted to make something of my own. And I remember going for a meeting actually with my father and a lady there who ran big, huge hospitals.
Hmm.
Um, I was working in a private clinic, and she just asked me, well, what do you want to do? What's your dream? And I said, well, I want to be my own boss. I'd like to have my own clinic, but I'm still too young. I was like, I'd only been graduated since 2009. This is now 2017. I was like, I think I need more experience. She was like, well, there'll always be an excuse. There'll always be a reason why, a reason to say no. And yeah, she said, well, why not now? Give me a concrete reason why you can't open a clinic now. And I couldn't give her one. So I left that meeting and then started looking at places. And 18 months after that meeting, I then opened up my practice. And at that point, had a vision of it just being a physio clinic, but the Department of Health in the UAE, who's our governing body,
Hmm.
is very strict and has quite a lot of red tape that makes it a little bit challenging. Um, and so they said, well, during the whole process of me opening, they changed all their rules and said you can't just have physiotherapy as a a department on its own. You've got to have three specialities. So I was like, oh my God, well, I don't know what to do. Like, I only know physio. I can only manage physios. That's all I know. Like, I
Yeah.
can't do anything else. And
What,
anyway,
what's the three specialties that need to
so
be
I
in the
started
business?
off then. So then I brought on speech and language therapy and
Okay.
dietetics nutrition.
Okay.
So started with that, and then subsequently grew through, yeah, through basically service needs. So like, a lot of people will call the clinic and like, okay, well, do you do this as well? Do you do this? I'm like, well, no, we don't. Okay, maybe we need to. And that's kind of how the clinic has grown in terms of the specialities that we now have.
Yeah.
And now we've got, a big team of physios covering musculoskeletal, sports massage, women's health. We see anything from athletes to, post-op rehab. And then we've got dietitian, speech and language therapy, OT. I've actually got a team of eight therapists that go into schools and do speech and language therapy and occupational therapy for children in schools. So we're partnered
Mm,
with 10 different schools in Abu Dhabi that
amazing. I love that community partnership, education
yeah,
and whatnot. Yeah.
it's really great, and it's been really nice to support the community in a completely different way.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, last September, so in a couple of days' time, it'll be a year since I opened up the medical center, and the medical center has family medicine and osteopathy.
Osteopathy. Oh wow. Is osteopathy pretty big in Abu Dhabi right now or?
It's growing. We're
Okay.
actually the first clinic to be that. So that's a second clinic. So that's the first clinic to have an osteopathy focus.
Okay.
In the UAE, or in Abu Dhabi, sorry. So it's growing. Yeah, it's growing.
Okay. Interesting. Wow. And I'm curious. So when you started the clinic, how big was it? Like, how many, is it square meters or is it square feet? Like, what do you guys, what's,
So yeah, square meters. So we're
okay.
135 square meters. So it's not very big.
Okay.
So it's six clinic rooms and then a gym space. And now we've acquired a second gym space and a second office. Um, and then I've got another 135 square meters. I don't know what that is in feet.
I'm going to do it
Sorry.
right now. Square meters. I think for every square meter, I want to say it's like almost 1,000, right? Yeah. So every 100 square meters is roughly 1,100 square feet. So
Okay.
yeah. So
So
you're
I've
at
got,
1,500 square feet, 1,100
yeah.
was 110 like sorry,
So
100,
hold on.
okay.
I'm
So that's like
probably, so it's
15,
100,
16.
at the moment it's probably 100 and I'd say about 155 to 160 square meters with my extra gym and
The
extra
medical side.
office admin space. And then the second place is another 135 square meters. So
Okay.
we've got double.
Okay. So if you add up, you're 260, 270, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then for the Americans or the Canadians listening, 130 square meters, right,
Yeah.
is roughly 1,400 square feet, right? So,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's a typical that's a typical like footprint like in North America, right? 1,500 to
Yeah.
2,000 square
Yeah.
feet, right? So,
And it's good, six clinic rooms, they're 9 square meters each. That's kind of the minimum of what, it fits a treatment table,
yeah.
and then sink and some counter space. And like the clinic rooms are that. And then we've got the gym space on the side.
Yeah. So it sounded like, so when you first started, did you like start small or you went all in? Like, because a lot of people typically like they just rent one room out. I just want to dabble and then get my toes kind of wet. And then there's other people where they're like, you know what, I'm all in. I'm gonna sign. I'm gonna get that 130, 150 square meter like lease, 5 years. I'm committed, right?
No, I was committed. I was
Okay.
committed. Once I'd walked out of that office and this lady planted a seed, she made me think, well, yeah, if I can't answer a question, why not now? Then why am I not doing it? And so I was like, okay, I'm going all in. Let's go. And I
Yeah.
didn't look back.
I love
Um,
that. It's so entrepreneurial. What did you do to prepare yourself for clinic ownership?
um, it's a very good question. So when I moved to the UAE, I kind of helped so I went into a like a government hospital, semi-private hospital, and from that they moved and set up a new physio clinic within a bigger hospital. So as part of that, and then from there I then moved into a private practice with two guys and watched them grow that. So I kind of, yeah, I watched and I learned and I
Were you in a leadership
asked
role
questions.
with that private
No,
practice? No? Okay.
No, neither. I was an employee.
Okay.
Um,
But you
and
watched like you were like you're osmosis. You're like watching them
yeah,
grow,
because
watching
I
them
knew.
mess up, watching them like things are doing well, and then you're like, I want to do my own thing, right?
Yeah, but I was also inspired by them too. I'm very grateful to all the people I've worked with along the way.
Okay.
I've learned from everybody. I've learned the good, I've learned the bad, I've taken on what I liked, what I didn't like, and then yeah, and then I have a super supportive family. So my parents, were still living here, so I had that around me. I did have that net of yeah, of having that support around me to make me feel like, okay, well, I can do this.
Yeah.
Um,
Is your parents like entrepreneur as well? Like they ran a business as well, or were they
no,
diplomats? Going
no, they
around.
weren't. No, neither. My dad ran a company. It wasn't
Okay.
his own, but he ran a company. So I saw him. He was, at the top. So I saw him do that, and they were super supportive. I think the other factor is that I had built a really, up until I kind of set up my own, I had built a really big caseload, and when I left at my second job in the UAE, so the one that before having perfect balance, I did have a really big clinical caseload. I left there and I thought I'd open the clinic within 3 months. It took 18 months to
Hmm.
open. So that wasn't great, but I ended up just going around with my car and my physio table, and I just worked like a dog from yeah,
Like as a
7 in
home
the
like home care,
morning.
right? Home
I
physio?
did home physio, yeah,
Oh,
until the
geez.
clinic opened. Yeah, from 7 in the morning
Yeah.
to 8 o'clock at night, at 9 o'clock at night, I'd literally come home to sleep, and that was me for yeah until the clinic opened. Among kind of going on site, making sure all the things met the authorities' needs, etc. So yeah, that was tough. I also taught.
This is your typical startup life. I was talking with Michelle in our community, and she runs Pete clinics out in Ottawa, and she did the exact same thing too. Like the renovations and all
Yeah,
the permits like took 9 months like too long, right?
yeah,
And so
yeah,
she had a caseload. She had to serve, like she had to pay the bills, like pay the contractor. So
yeah.
she was doing home care. She actually rented some space, like like you just do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, you do. And it was, do you know what? I wouldn't actually change that because it made me really appreciate what I was doing. It also made me, I wasn't afraid to work hard and work long hours and all of that. And also I was doing it for a greater good. I was doing it to
Hmm.
set up the clinic.
Yeah.
And I actually I wouldn't change that part. It would have been nice to have maybe not been 18 months.
Yeah.
But
18
yeah,
months, yeah, yeah, of extra delays, right? So
yeah.
I'm
So I
curious,
left
like
that job in
in your
March and
first
yeah.
yeah, in your first year of business, like what was your revenue like? Like were you able to hit the forecast that you thought you would?
So the first year was, well, yeah, first, so I was obviously December 2017, so I don't necessarily count that 1 month, but then 2018, do you know what? In all honesty, I hadn't planned a huge amount. I was very naive back then in terms of what I wanted to earn or I knew what my bills cost, and I kind of had this plan that okay, I just want to cover my bills. I want to make sure I can pay my salaries, but I don't think I didn't think big back then. I just thought I just need to get through this year is pretty what
Mm.
my thought process. I was very much a physio in the clinic, and I saw 16 patients a day. And I had my caseload. I then brought on another physio to join me. I then had my speech and language therapist. So it was pretty much me and my other physio, the first physio that joined me at that time. And so, yeah, in all honesty, I didn't really have a target. I have targets now. Um, but back then I didn't. I was very naive, and I look back and I'm like, Amy, how did you survive your first like 3 years? And then COVID hit, So
Oh,
how
geez,
on
yeah.
earth how did I get through that? I
Yeah.
had, zero business knowledge. I hadn't done any business or management courses. I knew I was a like likable person. I knew people would enjoy working with me, but my business hat was, um, it was probably absent. Apart from, being,
You're so
driven to
humble.
want to have my own clinic. But in all honesty, back then, I all I knew of running a business was what I had learned from the people who I'd worked for.
Mm.
But do you know what? In all honesty, I wish I had something like this, like this blueprint. I'd probably be way bigger than I am now if I had some form of blueprint and all the training and stuff that I've come across from you guys now. Because yeah, back then
Mm.
I was naive.
I think that's part of that journey. Yeah. So at the end of the first year, how much full-time staff you had, you think? Like it sounded like two or three, including
So by
yourself?
the end of the first year, I had four. I had one, two, three. Some of them were part-time. 3/4 full-time people.
Okay. Yeah. That's pretty good, Amy, right? It sounds like you had the demand. It looked like a lot of the demand came from your existing caseload, right? Right?
It
Like,
did.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Existing caseload. I was really big on word of mouth.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
what's the
was.
healthcare system like in Abu Dhabi? Is it very similar to like kind of like in the US or in Canada or even in the UK, or is it like strictly like cash pay or like private practice where it's just cash only and not insurance or government funded?
So there's a big mix. There's government hospitals, there's private clinics, there's private hospitals. There's so to live here, you have to have a visa, and
Yeah,
to have a visa, you have to have medical insurance. So everybody has medical insurance.
yeah.
If you're a local, you have, and you're a native to the United Arab Emirates, you have what you call thicker insurance, which gets you into most places. But then every expatriate that lives here has a private medical card. And depending on the level of that insurance, that then governs where you can go and not go.
Okay.
So,
And so
for
this is private insurance then, right? That's what you're saying,
yeah,
right? Okay,
yeah, it's
cool.
private insurance.
Okay, so is that your ideal patient then? Like an expat that is here on a like work and business visa, right? And
Yeah,
okay,
with good health insurance.
okay,
Unfortunately, we don't, and I think this was a learning curve for me, kind of really narrowing down like my ideal client, because unfortunately we don't cater to everybody because our price ticket is on the higher side. And so to be able to get your physiotherapy or speech therapy or OT reimbursed, you have to have a relatively good healthcare insurance plan.
okay, cool. So it's not cash, it's like insurance, right? That's right. Like people
So
aren't just paying
no,
out of
no,
pocket, right? The expats, right?
no, people are paying out of pocket and they're getting it reimbursed by their insurance company.
Okay, but it is reimbursed by the
Yes,
insurance
yes, yes,
company.
yes. It's
But very
reimbursed.
little are just paying cash, like no different than them going to a Starbucks, they not getting reimbursed, right?
No, the majority of people get it reimbursed.
Okay, cool,
Yeah,
cool.
the majority use their insurance cards. We do direct billing with, we're just about to onboard two new insurance companies. So we have one at the moment. We're about to just onboard two more,
Yeah.
and where we'll do
Did you
direct
say you
billing.
do
So
direct billing, right? Okay.
yeah,
So
so we do
yeah,
direct billing with Bupa. You might have heard of them, a big Bupa
yeah, yeah,
international insurance. So we do direct billing with them, and we're about to onboard with two other international companies.
yeah. And do you guys have the same billing issues as like what happens with some of the insurance payers in the US where you bill
Probably.
this much, but they only pay like this much?
So what you do, so in the UAE, what you do, or why I'm not signed on with loads, is because there's a base factor that you get insured, that the government basically decides on per code that you would attribute to the therapy, and then the insurance company then gives you a factor. So you want the highest factor possible because that's a multiplier. So for example, just for argument's sake, they might say this code is worth $100, and that's what. But you could, from the insurance company, get a factor of 2.5 for that. So you might get paid $250 for that code.
Interesting.
So but to get a higher factor, you've got to, yeah, prove that you do something a bit different, or that you have a higher quality of therapy, you have good results,
But
etc.
how do you measure? Is that based on the number of Google reviews or like a net promoter score or like what type of specialty, like whether
Yeah,
you have doctors or specialties at your clinic? Like,
yeah.
how do they determine
Meeting.
that factor score?
They do their due diligence. They look online. They might come and do a site visit. They will have meetings with myself. We were really lucky with Bupa. They
Interesting.
gave, so then they also ask for, to compare to the other insurance companies that you're dealing with and look at the factor they give you.
Yeah.
So we were lucky with Bupa to start with. And so,
So, but you
yeah.
have to do this for every single insurance company then, right? Is that
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You
Wow.
basically interview with them, right?
So this is
And
like, like this is kind of it's kind of it reminds me of like running a restaurant, right? You got a
yes.
like got a food
Yeah.
inspector, and then
Yes,
some owners are paying
absolutely.
off the food inspector to give them a higher factor. Is that
Yes.
stuff kind of happening behind the scenes?
Yeah. Yes, like, they would come and they'd inspect but then you then basically at their, peril, you wait for them to then give you give their answer, and you sometimes can negotiate, sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
And then you decide then if the factor's
You're
too
like,
low,
let
then
me take you
you
to a
say
nice
no.
dinner.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's
Yeah.
fascinating. That seems like a lot of I'm gonna call it like PR and BD work, business development work. Like you're
There
managing a
is.
lot of relationships, right? Right?
Yeah, there are. There
Yeah.
are. Thankfully, I have a
Okay.
great team that help me. I
Okay.
could not do it on
So
my own.
let's zoom up. So your ideal patient sounds like in its expat, working professional slash like a weekend warrior, or is it like you're going after the boomer market as well?
Um, so what do you mean by boomer market?
Like people like me, we're kind of in our 60s and, we want longevity. We don't want to die, right?
Yes.
Or are
Do you
you
know what?
going after the working, like kind of the more the working professionals who are weekend warriors or a
Um,
bit of both?
do, do you know what? We cater to a lot. We cater to many, not just one particular client group.
Okay.
Mainly because I have a an amazing team that have a huge varied skill set. So, some that love managing chronic pain, to women's health where they're managing women during pregnancy, after pregnancy, to therapists that love managing high level athletes.
Okay.
So yeah, to be honest, we cater for most.
Okay. But they are expats, right? Right?
But no, a lot of my caseload, we do treat the local population as well.
Okay.
Um, but because of the way their insurance plans work, a lot of them tend to like going into the hospitals where they don't have to pay and claim it back.
Yeah.
So it depends on, some people just can't be dealing with the extra admin,
It's kind of like the
paying.
UK process too, right? Like with
Yes.
the NHS, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Interesting.
so yeah.
So what's working for marketing and what's not working for marketing right now in terms of getting new patients? Not branding.
Uh,
I'm talking about strictly from a
yeah.
patient acquisition standpoint. What's working?
Um, our best, and I think everybody always says this, is word of mouth. We have a really good reputation in Abu Dhabi, and that's just through years of us, employing great people, having people in lots of different communities within Abu Dhabi, whether it be the mums, whether it be running groups, whether it be at gyms, golf, swimming, the schools, word of
So all the
mouth.
community events, all the community marketing, you guys are
Yeah.
like right in there,
It's
right?
it's a lot of work doing that, and that takes up weekends and whatnot, but it really does work. Like,
Yeah.
when you're able to, we're people's people, being physios and osteopaths and speech and language therapists and OTs. So we will be able to sell, or this is how I believe it to be, that we will be able to sell things the best if we're in front of people. So, being at events and being able to talk to people has been super successful. But since we have grown and I have the responsibility of a lot of therapists now, we do have an in-house marketer who runs our Google ads, runs our website, does our social media marketing.
Yeah.
We had to obviously up our game with our Instagram pages. I have a personal Instagram page. So yeah,
Is,
that's
is
been
does Google Ads is that kind of like top two or three within Abu
yeah.
Dhabi as
So
well? Yeah.
Google,
Yeah.
Google, and then alongside that, our Google reviews, we work super hard on
Yes,
getting
400 Google
testimonials.
reviews. I think that itself, like if I was an expat living, that would be the first thing I would look at. I wouldn't look at anything else.
Yeah,
If I was like,
yeah.
who has the most who has the most Google reviews that is similar like me. And
Uh-huh.
like, and then like once you pass the Google review test, I'll be looking at your IG, your social, and then look at your website. I was, okay, this is the place, right?
Yeah. And we've worked really hard on that, and
Yeah.
if you read them, sometimes if I'm having a bad day, sometimes I'll go to our Google reviews and be like, no, Amy, just read these. It's all okay. Because
Yeah.
they're wonderful. People write stories on there because, yeah, my team have helped change some people's lives, which is, amazing. So, yeah, Google Ads, word of mouth, and community events. Do you know what? Something stuck with me that Sanjeev talked about, and it was the drip effect of you have to do something in all these different areas. And when you
Mm.
do it in all these different areas, at some time, the bowl gets full. And that's, yeah, what we're trying to do. Trying to, do
Well, it seems like
all,
it's working,
all those
right?
different
So
different
something I
areas.
learned about marketing over the years is that like back in the olden days, like you could just focus on one like marketing channel. But now
Yeah.
if you look at consumer behavior, like they're all over the place, right? Like they're getting,
Yes.
and so if you're not in their email, if they're not in their, at these community events, if you're not at on Instagram, like LinkedIn or Facebook, wherever like they hang out, right?
Yeah.
Or in Google Ads, or now you got another factor of like ChatGPT and maybe possibly even Gemini. Like it's just like your marketing has to be in all the different buckets, and if I learned anything over marketing over years is that no one really sees you and your brand and your message until they see yourself at least 7 times, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
So it's not one
for
time,
sure.
it's like, and so
Yeah.
like that 7 times could be a combination of 7 different channels, right? All within a week. But
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
means you need to have a marketing org structure or team that allows be able to like start. I hate the word branding because branding is hard for a small business, but like in essence, you're creating a um, you know, um, content media machine that's actually happening at your clinic, and all they're doing is you create really good content and you're distributing across all the different channels that you have,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And um, you know, marketing, if you ask me what my weakness is, it would be marketing because it's where I know the least, but it's where I know that if I spend more time there, for sure, it has a huge impact. Even the amount of, increased time I've spent on it, I would say over the last 2 years has had, significant effect.
Mm,
And having, a real dedicated in-house marketer it's been life-changing.
yeah. What would you say is the toughest moment you faced as a clinic owner, like in your journey so far?
Toughest.
Yeah, or lowest point, either
Um,
or maybe you don't have any.
I would no, I do. I do. I've had so many learning curves. Do you know what my kind of coping mechanism, because it's a lot, is that I always try and turn my negatives into a learning curve. So I would probably say my toughest point was actually coming back to work. I've got two young children, so I've got a 4-year-old and a son who's just turned 2. And I would probably say the toughest time was coming back after my second, because my
Mm,
initial goal of setting up the clinic was I want to be able to be a mum and I want to be able to work. I don't want to have to pick between the two. I don't want to have to be like, okay, well, I can't work because I want to be a mum. And I came back after my second child and the clinic wasn't doing as well. Like I'd been away. I had like wanted to enjoy I took 4 months off. I still I say 4 months off. I was still like on weekly Zooms, but I wasn't in clinic. I wasn't working clinically anymore. And I kind of had this vision that I was gonna step away clinically. And I kind of found I got really disjointed from the runnings of the clinic, and I felt like I really lost touch with it. So we're talking kind of 18 to 20 months ago. And
so
I
2023, like a couple years after
yes,
COVID, right?
yeah, yeah. So it was a struggle in like coming back. Like my finances weren't as good as I'd hoped them to be. I'd lost touch with my team. I had new members that had started in my team when I'd been on maternity leave. So I kind of came back and felt a bit like an outsider coming back into my clinic that I'd built and grown, and now I had this new focus of being a mum, and I had two kids at home. I had a 2-year-old and a 3-4 month old. So that, I'd probably say that was my toughest time. And I battled with trying to know where do I start? Like, where do I even like begin to get grips and get my fingers back into the business? And I that was around the time when I actually called you guys. I was like, I
Oh,
need some
is
help.
that is that what
Yeah, I
happened?
need some
Okay.
help. I need
Okay.
to I need to get my connection back. And I had just lost, yeah, all sorts of yeah, my connection was kind of, yeah, and it felt really hard going back because I was like, I didn't know where to start. I was like, okay, well, and do you know what I did? I actually went back to what I knew. I was like, I think I need to go back to seeing some patients. So I saw some patients again. I kind of got my feet back of
That's your
like
comfort zone, right? Like going
it is
back
my
to
100%. It was my comfort zone. So I went back. I was like, okay, I'm going to see just 3 or 4 patients a day just to feel like I know what I'm doing. And I did that. And then I signed up with Clinic Accelerator. This is not a PR for you guys, you know. But I signed up with you guys to try and yeah, to build my connection again. And it was exactly what I needed. I needed someone just to tell me, do you know what, Amy? You need to start looking at this. This is what you need to start doing. And I started small, and I started like just, reviewing everything again, getting on top of finances, looking at numbers again, looking at my clinicians, building my connections back up with them. And it happened slowly. But it's taken about 18 months well, I'd say it took about a year of really working hard with you guys, having that guidance, that support. And yeah, I'm back to feeling in control and even better than I'd imagined I would be.
And what type of results have you been like getting in the last like 12 months, like that you feel like that you've achieved since joining maybe Clinic Accelerator or working specifically with Sanjeev, right? Because I think he's
Yeah,
worked quite closely
he's
with you, and
absolutely,
and
yeah.
Sanjeev is a bit of a revenue like he's a bit of a nerd when it comes to revenue and operations, right?
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I'm going to be so honest that with you that like at the beginning, I never used to look at my financials. I'd
Yeah.
use my bank account as my tracker. But like, okay, that's fine. Like I've got money in the bank. I've got a bit more than what I had last month. I'm like talking kind of like three
Most
years
people
ago.
are like 95% of most owners are still like that, It's normal. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was actually my husband is a business owner, his partner in a business, and he was like, Amy, like you need to look at more than just this. You can't just look at your bank account. And so, and I had an accountant, but I didn't ask for what I wanted. And then through Sanjeev and getting the scoreboard is my savior. Um, and I'm a bit obsessed with my scoreboard. Just because it shows everything, and
That's
I
my
think,
security blanket. Every Monday, your
yeah,
weekly scoreboard, even if you're not at the clinic, like it gives you a bird's eye view
yeah,
of like,
of
hey,
everything.
is it
Yeah.
working? Is it not working?
Yes. And I also know, like, I know our patterns. Like I know where things are a bit quieter. I know where our dips are. I know when we have to all dial down and work super hard because it's our peak months. And the summers used to really scare me because I didn't really prepare for them. Because we live in such a big expatriate community, it's really hot over the summer. Majority of people travel for 6 weeks. So it is quiet over the summer here.
Hmm.
But so I used to just kind of bury my head in the sand and be like, okay, I hope it's going to be okay. I hope it's going to be okay. But now, I have a bigger team. We're more strategic with annual leave. I've built up a bigger net of, making sure that we work harder in those months before to, prepare us for those tougher months.
Hmm.
And yeah, in terms of numbers. So I started with Sanjeev back in October last year, and we had our biggest ever months I've ever had in the clinic on record in April, May, and June of this year.
Hmm.
Do you want actual numbers?
What percent increase do you think it was? You think, right? Like roughly.
Uh, so I have to have spreadsheets. I don't know my numbers off by heart. I wish I did. But so if we in terms of last year, if I compare like to April of um last year to April of this year, we had 40% more revenue this year
Holy,
in
really?
April.
That's
Yeah.
insane, right? Amongst all the world chaos that's going on, right? And economic
Um,
uncertainty.
yeah,
Bravo,
and then
man.
we
You
had
know?
then we had 25% more revenue in May,
Yeah.
and then we had 20% more in June.
Yeah.
Um, so
I like
yeah,
that.
and
Yeah. I'm
we,
curious, like what was the things that you implemented that caused the you think that was able to cause the increase? Is it like some of the treatment planning stuff, like fall offs, like or is
it
it
was
more like
everything.
culture
It was
stuff, implementing a new service? Like, is there something you could pinpoint, or is it like a bit of everything?
I think, well, no, I don't think it was a bit of everything. I'm very, very sure that I started monitoring my business effectively. I started being an effective clinic owner and clinic director as opposed to being one of the therapists and treating just alongside one of the therapists and hoping for the best.
Mm.
We put in, all the stuff that Sanjeev taught me to do, treatment planning, managing fall-offs within an inch of every single one, like 2 times a week everyone got their fall off list. They had to report back to reception. We basically just put
Oh,
in processes that we
oh
just
my
didn't
gosh, I love this.
um
I
and
love
so
how you
it
execute.
worked.
Most people will like watch and like watch it, but very few implement, right? So it's cool to see you implement with your team, right?
I
So
where yeah, I think I've realized over the years I'm quite an easy person to coach because if you give me stuff that I believe in or
yeah,
stuff I can see has worked, I will implement. Like you give me a task, I'll put it into practice.
yeah,
Um and then when you start seeing results like that, it's hard not to then continue. I was like, okay,
yeah.
I need to work on another thing to renovate. And then it got super busy in June, and I said to Sanjeev, I was like, I can't do any more renovations of rooms. Like
Oh,
I'm like up
geez.
to here. I need to just sit with this. So I had a bit of a break over the summer of like renovating and sprints and whatnot, and we've just kind of got back to it. And I'm now on a big recruitment drive, and so
Is that the biggest challenge now? Like recruitment? You got so much demand, or maybe you don't have enough space?
um. my biggest challenge at the moment. But yeah, do you know what? I've realized how important it is to have really good people. And so
Mm,
finding good people is hard. And I have learned not necessarily the hard way. I don't think I've had, any really bad experiences. But I've had a few. And so I've learned implication of that. So making sure that the clinicians I bring on board is really important and not just bring on the first one that comes into onto our plate. Um,
which is very difficult, right? When you are short, unless you build
Yeah,
a bench, right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, 100%. I was about to say, like Sanjeev has taught me, you need to build, it's on one of my sprints, build your bench. And and that's tough because, and that like, from a thought process, like I'm interviewing people I don't necessarily have a job for yet,
yeah.
um, but I can see why. So, yeah, recruitment is tough because we're in an expatriate community too. So people, a big thing here we have is people come and they leave. So they might
Mm.
come and they're just with you for 2 years and then they move to other countries. I had
Is
a
that pretty
big,
common? Like, is that
yeah.
like most people don't want to stick around and build a life like
Um,
in Abu
It
Dhabi or
depends. Like
yeah.
to be honest, over the summer I had three big clinician. I had my one of my biggest earners leave me this summer, which was really
Mm,
stressful.
yeah.
And he moved back to his home country. He's got young family, so needs to move back to be close to family. I had two other amazing people who left. One of them to move back to their country, one to actually have a career change. So yeah, people do leave. And
Yeah.
so having three big people leave all at one time, they all
Oh,
left in
geez.
July was, yeah, that was
In
that
the
was
US
really
and
tough.
Canada, that is that's 700,000 of like revenue right there a year. Like just vanished, right? Not vanished, but like it's, it's that's what's on
Yeah.
the table, right? So,
Yeah, because a lot of the time, and what I've learned is that people follow people. So, if you're unlucky to lose a therapist to a competitor, which touch wood didn't happen. But it can and absolutely would. But if that happens, people follow people. So if your therapist leaves and moves to another clinic, they're taking those people with you, regardless if they've got a non-compete or whatnot. People will just move. You can't stop patients following their therapist like people follow their hairdresser.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
I'm loyal to my barber.
yeah, exactly. If he ends up moving 100 miles away, you probably just, drive
Yeah.
100 miles to go see
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
So, um, I've realized that, when you bring on new people, it's a huge amount of work to train them up, make sure they're properly onboarded, and then they've got to build up their own caseload. So, yeah, it's this summer's been a big learning curve.
Wow. Geez. That's so
Yeah.
fascinating. And how do most typical say physios or clinicians um like find out about, your practice and wanting to work there and applying?
So we put out adverts in lots of different places. We put them on job forums. We've advertised. So the most recent recruitment drive we did, we had 5 new staff members start in this month.
Wow, that's
Um,
insane. Yeah.
and
Is it
three of
like
them,
local or you're like, hey, I want the ones in the UK. I want a
no,
few
they're
from like
international
Canada, like
recruit.
America, right?
They're international recruits. We had
Wow.
London,
Okay.
South Africa, the north of England, and
Okay.
then 2 other recruits were local.
So you're
So
selling the lifestyle then too, and then and then go online, look
yeah,
at your social, like look at Amy's personal brand. They're like, oh my gosh, like people, like you said, people follow people. I want to follow Amy, right?
yeah, and it's scary. It's a big responsibility. But yeah, my team and I have built a great environment to work in. And then, I'm a, I do sell Abu Dhabi to be a great place to live. But it's in my blood. It's a
Yeah,
nostalgic place for me. I grew up here, so it's easy for me to sell Abu Dhabi to people. But my
yeah.
team also sell Abu Dhabi to people. My head of physio, Hitten, is incredible, and he has helped sell Abu Dhabi. He also loves, living here. So
I see
my
that on
team,
your Instagram. That's like your like one of your pin posts. Why I chose Abu Dhabi, right?
yeah,
All right. Which is an
yeah.
amazing post, by the way. I actually loved your story.
Ah,
If I
thanks.
watched that and I was a physio, I would work there, right? And then
Ah,
like behind your shot, like I love how professional is the behind the shot, like you're like showing the clinic and you're showing I believe it's the ocean there, like it shows how beautiful the space is. You're like, hey, I want to work there.
yeah. No, we're very lucky. It's a great space.
Yeah.
It's a great space to work in.
Okay, cool. Cool. So if I was a practitioner, a provider, physio, or maybe speech, like how do people find out more about you, Amy?
Oh gosh. You can follow my Instagram page on A Gilbert Physio, my our website. I'm obviously on Slack.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but and then email. Um,
And the Instagram is Perfect Balance UAE.
so
That's right.
Perfect Balance UAE is the clinic's one, and then my personal, well, I say personal, my like professional one is A Gilbert Physio, and we do lots of stuff on there, and
Um,
try to help, promote.
there you are. I'm not even following you. I'm going to follow you back. There you go. I follow your clinic, but I don't. I haven't followed you. This is cool. Love it.
So, well, a lot of my like personal stuff, I'm super into training and exercise. So a lot of
Okay,
mine is around the crazy exercise and the heat that I do in the UAE, um,
cool.
and then work. So
Amazing.
yeah,
Well, Abu Dhabi's on my bucket list, right? So
uh-huh.
me and my like, yeah, I'm gonna come see you soon.
You must. Oh my God. Do you know, there is so much to do, whether it be, oh, the desert
Yeah.
to the beach. But
Paul
I,
was like you spoke with Paul. Paul was just there last year, right? I think maybe at the
um,
moment that you joined, like he was in Abu Dhabi and plus he went to Dubai. Like he was like, "Oh, my kids love it. It's like the
yeah.
future of cities."
I know. It's a really great place with kids. Yeah, so at the moment it is like 80% humidity and 40 degrees during the day. Like a month ago, it was nearly 50 degrees during the day. So if you're going to visit, do not visit in the summertime because you'll have a completely different experience. The best,
But the
best,
whole
best
world's
month.
like that. Like Italy is that temperature. Like
Yeah.
Paris is that temperature. Like even even some parts of Canada and the US, like it is
Yeah.
that like weather,
But
right?
the best months are from like n beginning of November until April are heaven. So we're kind of in like that before the good weather starts at the moment. It's coming, it's on its way.
Yeah, amazing.
So yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Amy, and thanks for your time, eh?
Thank you. Thank you for, well, yeah, let me tell my story and
Uh,
yeah, and I'm super, super grateful to Clinic Accelerator. I wouldn't be, yeah, I use it in my meetings every day. I use it in my management of, yeah, monitoring the business. I definitely would not have the overview of my clinics if it wasn't for Sanjeev. I'm super grateful to him.
Yeah,
Super
I'm
grateful.
sure he's gonna love to hear that. So thanks.